Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. Today I want to talk about compressors. A buddy of mine a couple weeks ago brought in 80 pounds of compressors. He had them stored in the back and he got $1.80 Canadian. So what I want to do today is I want to take it apart, see if there is, or what's inside of it, see if I can make more on taking it apart or the parts inside, instead of just taking it as is. Compressors you find in a lot of different appliances, dehumidifiers, I find a lot of them in there, freezers, fridges, and they're not all circular like this. Some of you will find like more of a cylinder. There are a bunch of parts on the outside. As you can see, there is copper. There is, when you break off the copper, I don't like to do it because there is stuff inside of them that I don't like to see getting emitted to the environment. So I do have a friend that comes in when I have a bunch, flushes all this stuff and gets rid of it safely. Okay. As you can see on the outside, there is copper still. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a magnet, because usually the copper is connected to steel. Sometimes it is actually just straight copper. So if I take a magnet, this is all copper. Okay. This pipe is all copper, and this one is all copper. Now, this copper, there is pieces of soldering in there. So what I like to do is, first I will cut the whole thing right off of there. It's not hard to do because copper's pretty soft. I just use a pair of pliers. Okay, nice piece of copper. But what I'm also going to do, because this is with solder on it, this would be a number 2, and the paint. So what I would do is I would cut off right in the elbow there, and I would put this in my number 1 and this in my number 2. Okay, I'm going to do that later. Okay, another piece of copper, as I said. This just connects to the aluminum copper radiator that comes with a dehumidifier and also other parts to it. So in order to make good money with this, I have to take off the coating on here, and it comes off pretty easy. It's pretty sticky, so you might want to wear gloves. Make sure there's no soldering on it. And the last one is over here. So there are 3 nice pieces of copper on this piece. The next thing, if I look into the box, this box, if I open it up, and it's bolted down with just a piece of steel, like almost like a staple, a giant staple. So you do want to have safety glasses on, and when you're working with this stuff, I just take a pair of pliers. Okay, pull it off, cut it off. It's coming off, hang on there. Might need a little bit more elbow grease. Okay, there we go. So, open it up, this is a little bit of tin. Okay. Inside, as you can see, there are a couple spots that have plugs. Okay, if I take these off, there are 2. Okay, inside of this little cylinder and inside this box, there are actually pieces of silver contacts. Okay, and if you don't know what a silver contact is, I've shown it in a couple other videos, but I'll show it again. It is little pieces. That circle on the top there of my finger is silver. So what I do is I will cut that off, put it in a little container, and like that. So I store it up, and one day, hopefully I have enough, I'll hit it with some nitric acid, and I'll hopefully make a silver bullion. So with these, very simple, I just take a hammer. There is also nice little brass fittings on here that I can take off and put into my brass, and nice pieces of copper wire that I can put in my copper wire bin. Okay, so that is on the outside of the compressor. Okay, or yes. So first thing, they are very messy. Okay, I'm going to warn you now. There is oil inside of these, and what I'd like to do is, because of sake of time, I have 3 compressors. I'm going to show you different steps, okay, just so you don't see me take apart the whole thing. But the first thing that I always do is I will drill a hole in the top, and I let the oil drain into a bucket. Okay, after that is done, I will turn it over. I'll put another hole in the bottom, let it drain from there as well if there's any more. When you are taking apart a compressor, you might want to put something under your desk just because if there is a little bit more oil left over, you don't want to make a mess. Okay, I do take this oil, I put it in a container. I bring it actually to dump facilities, and they do have drop-offs for oil. So I, don't put this into the water system or into the ground. Okay, so as I said, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drill hole in the top. Okay, it doesn't take a lot of force. Okay, little container bucket that I have here that I'm going to store the oil in. I just turn it over. Make sure it's a heavy bucket because it does, produce a fair amount of oil. Okay, so that would be the first step. Okay, draining the oil. Second step, and I'm just going to use another compressor as an example, is I'm going to take a grinder, and I'm going to grind around the cylinder, okay? And I want to make sure I am not right at the seal. The seal is the thickest part of the steel, so it's going to be harder for you to grind through it. So I'm going to go usually about a ½ an inch below the seal. That's where it's the thinnest, okay? So I would take a grinder, and I would open that up, okay? So you can do it outside. It doesn't take that long to grind, and I'm not going to grind it for you. But actually, yes, well, I'll start for you, just to show you. Okay, very simple. And again, there might be a little bit of oil that comes out. Word of caution, when you grind this, it does get hot. All right, so after you're done opening it up, you want to put it down for a couple of minutes because you don't want to burn yourself, okay? So just quickly show you how easy it is. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'll start it. Okay, so that took me all of, I don't know, a ½ a minute. Okay, as you can see, it's gone through, and I would just continue to work it all the way around. Okay, and it will pop off. But as I said before, you work on it. There might be a little bit of oil still in there, and it might smoke, and that's okay. It's not going to catch fire. But again, leave it off to the side because it does get hot. Okay, what you will end up with, and here's my other one, is a nice cap off of the top. This is steel, so this will go in my steel bin. The bottom is also steel. Okay. Now, I have already taken out a couple of the screws in the top, but this is your motor. As you can see, beautiful copper motor. You could throw this into the copper motor bin as is. Okay, so you get better money than you would as a compressor. Or you can take the second step, and I'm going to show you how to take the copper out of this motor. Okay, so first thing that you need to do is there is usually 3 little bolts at the top. Okay, and it's usually you need an Allen key to do that. Okay, once you do that, this comes out. I'm not sure if it's steel. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is going to just go into my steel bin. Okay, and again, to maximize my money, if I want, this is actually cast aluminum. So if I want to cut around that, take that piece out, I can. Okay, I'm not gonna because it's not really worth the difference in my grinding discs, but it's very simple to do because cast aluminum is pretty easy to cut through. Okay, so you could do that or just put it in your mixed cast bin. Okay, there is a separate bin at the scrap yards that take dirty scrap cast, so I can do that, and that's what I'm going to do. All right. So the motor, there's a couple screws that connect it to the bottom, which are right here. Okay, so I'm going to just loosen those off right now. All right. And again, the bottom, this tube comes out of the inside. This is steel, okay? And there's your bucket, okay? You can see it's still a little oily. I can wipe it off, okay? And I have not taken the silver contacts out of this box yet, okay? So I have to do that still. All right. Again, I'm using a frying pan to hold it, just because I don't want oil on my workbench. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Okay, they're nice large screws. You can reuse them if you want. Or throw them out. They are going to be oily. All right, but two. Beautiful day outside. I'm inside, helping make it or continue making this world beautiful. Hopefully helping you do the same. All right, so there is my motor. All right. Take a magnet. This is all steel. Okay. So this is going to go into my steel bin. Okay, another nice piece of steel. And as I said in one of my other videos, it doesn't take a lot to, you know, bring in a big load or a good weight of steel. Lastly, to get this copper off, I am going to use a grinder. All I'm going to do is actually grind around one side. And I'm hoping when I do that, I will just take a punch and I will punch the other side out. So I will do the grinding right now. I'm gonna change my eyeglasses because I'm pretty accident prone and I find myself getting hurt a lot if I don't take the necessary precautions. Some people will hold it. I do. You don't have to hold it in the grinder. I'm actually just going to hold it in my hand and just kind of go around it. Okay. Now, you notice if there are sparks, you're getting too close to the steel, so you just got to move it up a little bit. Okay, copper does not spark. So that's the reason why there was some sparks there. And there was a little bit of smoke. Again, it's because of the residue from the oil. Okay, so nice piece of copper. And what I would also suggest, which I am going to do, is I will take off the little coils. Okay, because if you have these on there, then it's going to be lower grade. Okay, so there is coils on there. And there are obviously loose pieces that come off, but you store them up, you add them up. Okay, so that's one side. Now, if I want, I could grind the other side. Some people do that. I find an easier way. All I do is I'll put it into a vise. I will take a bigger screwdriver, usually a thick end screwdriver like this. Take a hammer and I would just punch. Okay, once I've worked it around, comes out, I'll show you in a second. Okay, very quick. I already got half of it out. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's already popping out. And I could go all the way down if I want, or just take a pry bar. Okay, that's what I'm going to do right now. Bring it up. Start to come. Use the bench as a lever, or a lever. Okay. And I work the other side. And again, take my hammer. Sometimes if I don't get all the coils taken off, it could slow the process, but not too bad either. Last one. Okay, again, take a pry bar, put this in the vise. Pry bar, there it is. And use my bench once more as a lever. There we go. So, this is probably about at least 1.5 pounds. 1.5 pounds of copper is about, $250, $280 Canadian. So already made more than if I had 80 pounds of compressor, okay? And not to mention, remember, I also have the silver from the silver contacts. I also have the steel from my shells, and the steel from the motor. And again, the other thing I forgot is also the dirty cast steel motor as well. Okay, so looking at this experiment, this is better price. Took me maybe 1 grinding disc to do, 20 minutes to take it apart, and yes, I'm left with some oil, but I just store it up in a container, one of those 4-liter jugs, and I can bring it in and dispose of it properly. Any questions or comments? Leave them below. Like, subscribe. Tin Man out.